Well, the media fascinated with the twists and turns in the Petraeus sex scandal. But instead of obsessing over the general's personal sex life, should people be more concerned about how this all became public? Well, we know about the affair thanks to an FBI investigation in which agents sifted through thousands of emails between Petraeus and his mistress, Paula Broadwell. But Broadwell is certainly not alone. Google's semi-annual transparency report shows that the number of government requests for user information has skyrocketed. As you can see, in the first 6 months of 2012, Google says it received more than 20,000 requests. Nearly 8,000 of them were from the U.S. Most of the requests, 90%, were fulfilled to some extent. Well, now that the Petraeus story has exploded, is the real story the government's ease and desire to snoop on people's online activity, even when there's no crime being committed? To discuss, RT producer Adriana Ucero and RT web producer Andrew Blake.
Hey.
Hi,
Hello,
guys. Thanks for joining me here. So what do you think, Andrew? Is the media missing the big story here?
I like how you asked if this was the big picture, as if this wasn't the big picture for the last 25 or 30 years.
But hey, I mean, a couple of generals get, investigated and everyone's at ACLU all of a sudden. So obviously.
You know, people start bringing this up. Oh, is this the real housewives of the Pentagon? And oh, golly, look at all this sexy, scandalous love affair, and oh, it's so dramatic. And even Senator Feinstein was like, this is just like something out of the National Enquirer.
Yeah.
It's finally got people's attention that sometimes people do bad things. But that's not the thing that has people worried now. Now people are finally, once and for all, worried that maybe the things that they think are private and between themselves and one other person over the internet actually aren't so private. But that's something that a lot of advocates, and I know us here on RT have been talking about for ever, more or less. And so it's great that people are actually starting to finally realize this.
Yeah, very, very true.
And so I kind of pointed out earlier, Google's transparency report recently came out. And what we see from that is that the U.S. is leading in the number of requests. And it kind of raises eyebrows, that fact, in a nation that prides itself on free speech.
I mean, it's really interesting also if you really see, bringing it back to Petraeus, it's funny the fact that, the method that they used in order to communicate was, via Gmail was just, just saving drafts of just emails back and forth. To think that, I know that all of us here, while we're at the office, we always think, well, should I send this in a message? Should I not? Because it's going to be traced back to me. To think that, these people thought they were above the law is very, very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you just said that was like almost 8,000 Americans had their accounts seized, or not seized.
Those were the number of requests.
Those were the numbers of requests.
From the U.S. government.
And Google followed through with 90% of them. And that's, I mean, it's on the rise, but it's not that unusual. Google's been keeping track of these numbers since 2010 now.
Speaking of that, we do want to, let's pull up this chart, Andrew, because it kind of illustrates what you're saying. It shows that these government requests have increased exponentially, as you can see there, over the years. We see since 2004, the demand to snoop on emails and other internet activity rises dramatically. And Andrew, we don't really know why the information is being demanded or what is being done with it after the fact. And we should know a lot of the times there is no criminal activity involved.
No, not at all. If you look at what Google or what the government has been doing to Google, and you look back at the Electronic Communications Privacy Act of 1986, I believe, something like 30,000 Americans every year have their emails monitored by the government, and they get gag and seal orders, and the attorneys, the prosecutors never have to reveal it to the public, never even have to reveal it to the client. It's really much as simple as just having a single magistrate judge sign off on a sheet of paper, and then the government can do whatever they want to your inbox. And it's something that's been happening
But a lot of times it's done apparently without even a search warrant.
No, not at all.
What's crazy about it, I'm glad that Andrew brought up the Electronic Communications Privacy Act, is the fact that the government doesn't even need it, because the way the law is written out right now, it essentially says that, we may or may not need a search warrant for this, but since our, which is the information communicated in an email, or in this case, an email via two parties, but essentially that hasn't been redrafted since 85, 86. So right now, things have progressed to such a point that that existing piece of legislation is no longer relevant to the world that we live in now. So in other words, something very interesting back to the Petraeus case, the fact that, the government would have needed a warrant to really investigate the communication, the information within those messages, but they didn't need a warrant in order to figure out who it was.
Right. In this case, clearly there was no warrant because the woman that demanded the investigation had these connections, and
I mean,
she was
obviously, yeah, that's very
Florida
interesting.
socialite.
Exactly.
So I guess she had a friend that was pretty high up in the FBI and said, "Hey, this person's sending me emails I don't like, so please look into this."
Wouldn't it be nice to have friends like that, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it would have.
We got to work
If
on
anyone
that.
from the FBI is watching right now, feel free to look me up on the internet. And we'll be
He's an
buddies.
open
tweet
book.
you.
This one. He's an open book.
And Andrew, I know that you write about this a lot, these various pieces of cyber legislation, and that's this kind of highlights that these laws are kind of outdated.
Yeah,
and need
yeah.
to be revised in order to kind of.
I wouldn't necessarily say they need to be revised, but it seems like Congress is definitely making an effort to push it that way.
Absolutely. I mean, even from last year, there is an effort already in Congress to sort of update. There's a big push in order to update the current legislation. I mean, there's something out there called digital due process, where a bunch of companies, AOL, Google, even the Electronic Frontier Foundation, are all advocates of this, just because they want to modernize and synthesize the stuff that is currently on the books. But another interesting thing about today
Just
is,
today, yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
Andrew, please
Yeah,
feel
no,
free.
earlier this morning, thank you. The Washington Post published an article, and they said that last month, mid-October, President Obama signed a top-secret classified presidential policy directive that outlines, pretty much gives preliminary blueprints to how the Pentagon can engage in cyber warfare with other countries. Now, we are all but certain that since 2006, the U.S. government has been attacking Iran's nuclear infrastructure using Stuxnet, Flame, and a program that's been called the Olympic Games under the Bush administration. The White House has refused to actually acknowledge that they are involved in this, and just today we find out that the president has finally said, okay, well, this is when you can attack, this is how you can attack, and we now know that what might seem like a offensive actually assault on other computers is now just being considered a necessary defense mechanism by the Pentagon. And so the U.S. is about to be able to get away with a lot more, and the president signed off on it.
I mean, it's interesting in what Andrew was talking about. It's called Presidential Policy Directive 20. And essentially, we have heard that, the new frontier is now cybersecurity. All of us, we've discussed how, Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta has called it, he's waiting for cyber Pearl Harbor. And the reasoning isn't that this isn't a problem. Obviously, this is something where we need to put in build up infrastructure. We need to build up defenses and so on and so forth. However, the problem is that current cybersecurity legislation that is now on the books or is now, to be voted on doesn't really take into account those things. And a positive on this, I'm going to disagree with Andrew a little bit, is the fact that there are now details, there are now certain safeguards, there are now, laws, rules in place, essentially, which is the first step in order to be able to, get anything done or anything, different to be able to go on.
Well, let's be honest. If this whole Petraeus scandal, if that's what's really getting you actually concerned about cybersecurity and privacy and the digital age, then Presidential Policy Directive number 20 really isn't going to freak you out that much. What people should know, and what we saw yesterday, just by seeing how well this story moved online on RT.com and on other websites that were also picking up the Google Transparency Report, is that people actually care. People are starting to realize, wow, 8,000 people in 6 months.
It took a big sex scandal to bring it to people's attention, I guess.
Doesn't it always?
Yeah.
Doesn't it always?
Yeah, they'll forget next week.
Yeah,
but let's hope
true.
not. Let's hope not.
fingers
Well, I
crossed.
think something really interesting about this is, we have the CIA and these organizations that are requesting this information, yet we have the head of the CIA who has now, his demise is attributed to the fact that these very policies and the ease of the FBI being able to access them. Irony. Very ironic. We are out of time. Thanks, guys, for weighing in on this.
Always.
Very interesting. That was RT producer Adriano Usero and RT web producer Andrew Blake.
Great.
Thanks.